He is one half of the first ever NXT Tag Team Champions. He has also been a Tag Team Champion in RPW, RQW, FWAA, and he is a two-time All-Star Wrestling Super Slam Champion, and he is also the head coach of All-Star South. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Grapple Ride Show, episode 56, Joel Redman. Welcome to the Grapple Ride Show. My guest today is a British professional wrestling ambassador. He's been all around the world and back again. Please welcome to the show, Joel Redman. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Brett. Thanks for having me on.
No problem at all, sir. Our first question to any new guest, it's their first time on the show, is where did it begin for you?
I didn't watch wrestling as a kid. I did judo, so I grew up doing that, really. I never watched any kind of wrestling. A couple of my friends, I grew up on a farm in Devon. It was a farm across the hill. A guy called Chris Andrews and Sam Andrews. And Chris Andrews actually wrestled for quite a long time. And I used to go over to they were mates from school. And they said to me, do you want to go and watch a wrestling show in Exeter in the Corn Exchange? And I'd never seen pro wrestling before. And it was one of Scott Conway's, the Wrestling Alliance shows.
Yeah.
So I went there and I watched that. All I remember is Chad Collier was there because I had a signed picture, and I remember James Mason. I remember hugging James Mason. I was like a 12-year-old boy or something, which I remind James of because James isn't that much older than me, but makes him feel old. That's my first experience with wrestling, and then we just started wrestling on hay bales in the barn. We used to put hay bales, tires, and some cow mats on top of that.
Yeah.
And we'd wrestle on that, and then I think when I was 14 or 15, I heard that some RBW, might have been Revolution British Wrestling or something. They were a company in London years ago.
Yeah.
And they were going to open a school in Exeter, which is near where I'm from in Devon. So we were going to join that when I was 15 or 14, something like that. They ended up not doing that in the end. So I contacted the company and said, listen, I'd like to do this myself. I'll sort of manage it. I was only a kid. But me and the boys that I knew, we kind of all chipped in pocket money to pay for Phil Powers to come down and teach us on a Saturday afternoon, or a guy called Sammy Ray. And that's where we met a guy called the UK Kid, who eventually sort of trained us. But that's how we started. So, I mean, there wasn't any schools. We'd go to Portsmouth sometimes to Mark Sloan's for like weekend camps at the FWA Academy, but there wasn't schools everywhere. So we had to kind of use our initiative of how can we get these pros down to teach us on some mats. And the judo, I really enjoyed judo, and I did it, growing up, and it was in Barnstable. There was a lot of sort of military bases around that area.
Yeah.
And I won a competition. I was a white belt as a kid, and I won this competition in Devon. And they said, we want you to start training with the adults. And I was 14 or 15. I said, well, that sounds great. And I'd go there and I'd be on the mats with guys that were 30-year-old military guys. And if I could just take them down, that was a huge result for me. I'd never win. But it was a good test. And then those guys went into mixed martial arts and said, do you want to try this? And we'd put on some gloves and stuff. We'd take the guys down, but I just could never punch them in the head. I'd take someone down and they'd say, right, now punch him. I'd be, I don't want to punch him. I'm not violent or aggressive.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it started for me.
So how did you find, obviously, the judo's got some similar sort of things to pro wrestling. Now, how did you find the training from going from judo to starting the wrestling training? I mean, what sort of things were you doing when you started training? What was it, what you thought it was going to be, or was it like something completely different?
Yeah, it's what I thought it was going to be. I think I have a school now, and I always teach, because I take 16 above my school. I don't want to train kids, but when I meet parents that have kids that say my 12-year-old wants to be a wrestler, I always encourage them to do judo. Normally judo primarily, because amateur wrestling, there's not a lot in this country. So for me, most places have a judo club, and jiu-jitsu is great, but I think judo is really good for pro wrestling because you've got to learn how to break fall, first of all. And also you learn about leverage and how to use leverage to take people down. Also, at my wrestling school, when I get new people in, they learn how to catch wrestle first. Every takedown they learn is legit takedowns. And I'll quite often demonstrate with people where they are trying to stop me. And I feel like that's maybe been lost in pro wrestling sometimes, where the guys don't learn how to do that first. They just learn how to do a backflip off the top rope. But
Oh,
pro wrestling is still wrestling, and you need to learn how to actually control someone's body. And that isn't about strength. That's normally about leverage and technique and learning how to do some of these takedowns the proper way. I think also when you learn how to or do judo, and I played rugby for a pretty good level growing up, so a lot of contact sports. You kind of learn how what it feels like to be in pain. So the sort of performance aspect of pro wrestling is easier because you can kind of show those emotions because you probably felt it or you've had it done to you. Um, I know there used to be a thing, and it happened to me when I started, where they would just put holes on and squeeze you a bit in pro wrestling, which we don't really do anymore, just because of the way that the world is now. But you used to get squeezed quite a lot just to learn what a wrist lock felt
I
like and what a
remember.
headlock felt like, but that was the best way really because there was never enough to cause any kind of damage, but it was enough for you to understand how to perform that and how to show people that that's hurting because you know how it would feel.
No, definitely. I mean, I've said that to people myself. You know, most those holds are legit or have ropes in legit holds. You know, they do
Yeah, sure.
actually, they are effective. They're not there just to be, you know, people go, oh, it's a rest hold or whatever, you know, but those are legit holds, and you should
Yeah,
know
of
a bit
course.
at least what it feels like and how to try and get out
Yeah,
of
yeah.
it. Because
And
yeah,
it's
no,
the
I
same
totally
same with
agree.
the takedowns. The same with the takedowns. Most of these takedowns have come from legit takedowns.
Mm.
So you need to learn how to do it properly first. And then once you've mastered sort of, well, not mastered, but got a concept of how to do some of these takedowns in a more legit fashion, then when the guy assists you, they look phenomenal. But if you don't really learn how to do it properly first, it's a bit of a mess.
No, I totally agree with that. So you are a younger lad. You have chipped in your pennies. People are coming down and starting to train you now. Where does that go from there? Because, like you say, you've popped up to Portsmouth a few times, do a bit of training. Is this something now where you're like, yeah, this is what I want to do, or is this just sort of what you're doing with your mates at the weekend?
Give me 2 seconds. My wife's
Oh,
trying to
no
call me. I'll
problem.
just leave. Let me just leave it.
Yeah, that's right. I'll cut it out. That's all right.
Sorry, she knows what I'm doing, so I'm not sure she's trying to call me.
That's all right.
She's gone to Tesco's. Um, so yeah, so we're doing that training. We're paying guys down to sort of help coach us. Where did it go from there? I met Phil Powers. So Phil Powers was coming down to coach us, and I met Phil. And then Phil, again, I was probably 15, 16, something like that. He said, "Do you want to come and do the summer run with me? And you're just going to be a referee. Like I wasn't wrestling at the time, but we get you in the ring before the show. It's where I met Chris Flatliner and JC Ace and stuff all there. And we'll get you in the ring before the shows, and we'll show you a few bits, and then you just referee." So I did that, and that was a massive learning experience for me because it's one thing doing the odd show here and there, but doing it every day is a completely different style of wrestling. So that was really good. Then we met the UK kid. He was trained by Shawn Michaels in America, and he
Mm.
started a school in Portsmouth. So we would drive from Devon to Portsmouth every Saturday, get there, build the ring, train, and go back home again, which is a long drive. It's about a 6 hour round trip. And there was one guy who trained with us who used to go from Penzance on the train to Exeter and then get in the car with us and go to Portsmouth and back every week, which is like I've got students now that won't go half an hour to get to the session. I'm thinking, guys, I used to go 6 hour round trip to go and train.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, we did that, and then I moved to East London to Dagenham for a while because where Phil was at the time, just to sort of wrestle more, and then eventually Mark Sloan had the FWA Academy, and I used to wrestle for him. He had me on the shows, but I never trained there. I would just do every show. I think I was quite a hard worker on the ring, and he just liked me, I think, so he kind of gave me an opportunity. And then when he closed the academy, he started a thing called the Super 8 training, where he picked 8 wrestlers from around the country that he wanted to
Yeah.
train. Which I was one of those, and Mark Haskins is one of those too. So me and Mark, I think we were 18, we moved to Portsmouth. It's got like a little dingy little flat in Portsmouth, and we would train there full time with him. And then that's why I started sort of going out to Germany and Ireland and around the country, and really starting to branch out then.
Who is around on the scene at this point then? Because because I think what's interesting about your career as well is you seem to have been at a lot of transitional moments at key places. So there's the FWA, like Mark is sort of that's on the sort of downside. There's other things coming up now, different organisations, different groups. Irish Whips just come back as well, if I remember, because they sort of had a bit, then they disappeared, then they came back again. It seems like there's a lot of places popping back up again and stuff. What was it that was catching your eye? Who was around? Did you have a goal of like I need to get there? Was there a certain promotion or a
Yeah, sure,
place that
sure, sure. So we would do IPW UK, which is in Kent. We do a lot of shows there. So me and Haskins had some matches with like Zack Sabre Jr., Marty Skrull, these kind of guys, the Cartel, Martin Stone. And that was like the big independent at the time. So we were wrestling out there. We were going out to WXW in Germany, which was really good fun. We do that every month or a couple of weeks. And I used to go out to Irish Whip Wrestling in Ireland, and I'd do shows out there. And then every now and again, if Dixon got like a desperate for people, we'd give Mark a call and say, "Have you got a couple of bodies?" And we'd go and wrestle for Allstar. And I remember just sort of going to Allstar then and just being like, "This is the big leagues. Like all these other companies are nothing. This is real men, just huge big men." It's like when Brody Steele and Sheamus and Drew McIntyre and Wade Barrett and just monsters like Carl Kramer, PN News. And you just feel like a little boy when you go in there. But I always sort of thought to myself that, that was kind of the company I'd love to work there. I'd love to go and wrestle there.
Yeah.
And they had big guys, and they also had like amazing technical wrestlers like Robbie Dynamite and Dean Allmark and James, and they had some really good skilled professionals, and Tony Spitfire. And there's a list you can go on forever how good Brian's shows were at that time. So that was kind of a goal of mine at a young age, was that I would want to go and try and get in there and wrestle there and be a part of that team. But I ended up going to the States instead.
Okay, so how did that come about then? How did you get on? Was it getting on the radar for the States? Was it a couple of shows there? Was it something you've done? Was it still in the days of sending your photo over and your videotape and all that?
I never really know. I mean, I'd left Portsmouth and gone back to Devon, and I wanted to keep training, so I sort of started I wouldn't say a wrestling school. There was a load of people down there that were wrestling at the time. We all kind of got together just as a way that I could keep in shape. I wanted to try and stay in the ring all the time. I was still doing a lot of shows and traveling around and probably working a lot for like Premier at the time and things. So I was still doing a lot of shows, but I wanted to just keep in ring shape. I'd done 2008. I did the first Noah European tour in the Coventry Sky Dome. So I'd done that match, did a 20-minute draw with a guy called Aoki. So that was quite a big match. And then I wrestled Marufuji the next night. So I'd done that. So WWE might have seen something about that. And then I'd done the TNA gut check, I think, after that as well. And then I went to a show in Nottingham. Drew McDonald was at the show. And he just said, they want to see you. They've been asking about you. Because Drew was the talent scout at the time. Yeah. And just the WWE really keen to see you. If you go onto the recruitment page and just fill it in, but it's a sure thing. You'll be at the tryouts in Manchester. So I filled in the forms, went to Manchester. I had a dreadful match there. You had to do like matches to show what you could do. I won't name who I was wrestling, but it wasn't a good match.
Okay. Was it just matches, or did you have to do like physical stuff? What do they expect
no, that
from
was
you
just
in
matches.
Okay.
The tryouts are completely different now. This is for a SmackDown or something, and they just said, "Right, get in the ring, guys, and do matches, and we're going to watch you." And like you've got, the big names sitting around the rings, like the Undertaker might be sitting there watching, and people. Yeah, the match was terrible. But they said, we can see something in you, and come back in 6 months to the O2 and just get a bit bigger. So I just hit the gym a bit harder and got a bit bigger, and then I went back to the O2, and I got to the O2, and they just said, "Right, guys, just stand around the ring, just tag in, tag out, just wrestle and show some intensity." And like, because of Phil and those kind of guys, I'd already, I wasn't good at it then, but I'd kind of understood about working on the fly and not having to plan everything and being able to just get in there and do stuff. So I felt pretty comfortable doing that. And I think that kind of shone out a little bit. I just did my tryout, and Jamie Noble was at ringside, and they said, "Jamie, can you jump in with this guy for a while and wrestle him? I want to see if he's any good, because we might sign him." And I wrestled Jamie Noble for a while, and he just said, "Yeah, he's give him a job." And then that was that really.
What was it then? Because obviously, first of all, you got a job with like one of the biggest companies or the biggest company on the planet, but also obviously you got to move to the other side of the world to do it. So, was there any hesitations? Were there any worries? Was it any kind of thing, or was it straight on?
Yeah, not really. Like I said, my dad played a lot of rugby. He's a big rugby fan, and I've never pushed to play rugby, but I know my dad would wanted me to play rugby, and I did play for a long time. And eventually, I stopped playing because of wrestling. I was actually playing a game against a Welsh team, and the guy stood on my face and he tore my nose off. I decided I'd pack in rugby and focus on pro wrestling.
Yeah,
So my parents are they're farmers in Devon, so they don't really understand why I'd want to be a wrestler. It sort of baffles them a little bit.
yeah,
So when I did the show in Coventry for Noah, I got them tickets to sit in the bleacher seats because you had about 4 or 5 thousand people there. So I had them just to
yeah,
sit and watch that. And then they were like, "Oh, okay, you might be good at this. Yeah, okay, give it a go." And so when I got signed in the O2, it was the first thing I just called my dad and just say, "They've offered me a contract. I'm going to move to Florida." And it was really good because it was kind of like reassurance to him that I hadn't wasted all this time. Like I
like
never
doing
went
it.
to
Yeah.
university. I decided to wrestle instead of going to uni and stuff. And it
Mm.
was like a way to say, no, it was worth it, and the gamble was worth it. So yeah, I don't remember being particularly worried. I was very young. I was 23 when I signed a contract. I was 24 when I moved out there. Yeah, I wasn't very worried. I was just so focused on doing it and
Doing it. Okay.
making a
Because
success.
again, what was it like in that? Because again, there was another transitional time. Because I think looking at the dates for it and doing my research, because you got there as it was Florida Championship Wrestling, then it became NXT. Is that sort of right? Because again, that was
Yeah,
sort
for
of a
sure. Yeah, yeah.
that was like a big change for them. I mean, they've just done a documentary about the change and how it swapped over and everything. But what was that like getting there? Because obviously you're getting there, you're getting established, and then suddenly it's like, oh, we're doing this now. Was it a sort of a weird time there? What was, who else was around? What was it like there? What was the vibe?
So it was about 30 or 40 people, maybe in FCW. So it wasn't very many people. It was just like a little warehouse unit in Tampa, just boiling hot. Like in the summer, they wouldn't turn the air conditioning on and leave all the doors shut. It was a sweat box, but it was like proper training. It felt good, like
Yeah.
it was really good training. And yeah, I mean, at the time, you had like Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose and Bray and a lot of the guys that you've probably seen in the last 10 years that have done well were there at the time. But there wasn't very many of us. So when you were there, it was really good because you kind of felt like there's a really good chance we're going to go up to the main shows because there's not much competition. And then whilst I was there, it transitioned into NXT, and they spent millions on the performance center with like 8 rings and nice air conditioning, changing rooms, gym. And for me, it kind of like it's good, but I kind of like the
The old school
sweaty,
sort of thing. Yeah.
dirty old unit. I kind of felt that was more suited to me. And at NXT had 130 people, so you're like, okay, my chance again getting out of here is really slim now because there's so many people that I'm competing against.
What was
So yeah,
expected? I was going to say was what was expected of you changing as well. Was it a similar sort of curriculum, or when it went to that, was it right now you need to be doing this, or without giving away too much of
uh,
the trade secrets? But do you know what I mean? Was it kind of? Because I know they have sort of classes from how they've explained it, and that was there
yeah,
certain?
kind of the same. So I got there to FCW, um, and me and Martin Stone got there at the same time, I think. And we just trained, and they said, no, you guys need to be in intermediates. So they moved us from beginners up to intermediates, which was great for me because Ricky Steamboat was the coach, and he's like my all-time favorite wrestler. So I just trained with him for like 9 months, maybe 9 years, or a year maybe. And then when I was doing that, it's when they put me on the live events like the same weekend I first moved there. So I started working shows, and then they put me on the TV as like just some squash matches. And then when Pac joined, they teamed us as a tag team, which when we won the tag team titles in the tournament,
Yeah.
which was really good. And I was really in the peak there. I was not in ring. I've been better as a wrestler, but in terms of fitness, I was at my peak. And
Yeah.
we just got pushed really hard. And we had a phone call saying you're going to go up and debut on Raw, and you're the next guys to move up to the main roster. And about a week later, I just was wrestling Bray Wyatt on a house show, and we just did a move we'd done a million times. It just went wrong, and I just tore my ACL, my meniscus in my knee. It just went down, and I was out for 9 months with an injury. They just scrapped all the plans. Just thought,
Yeah.
that's that finished basically. I was meant to go to WrestleMania that year too. It was 2 weeks before WrestleMania. I remember doing my knee, and then just oh yeah, you're not going to go there because you need to be in Tampa rehabbing, and it was a long time off, and like to be that young and then have that happen to you, I couldn't really deal with it, and you're kind of on your own out there. So when I came back, I could wrestle, but like I remember having a knee brace on, and just things like leapfrogs were really tough in my knee brace, and just really getting frustrated, and throwing my brace on the ground. But just was wound up that I couldn't do the same things anymore because of my injury, and yeah, I just think mentally I just was in a bad place because I just couldn't deal with the injury, and that's what ultimately led to me getting released from the company.
Oh man, yeah. I've had knee problems myself, and no, I've never tore anything, but I won't bore you with it, so I can relate to it. I've been off the mat. Well, I've only just started getting back on nearly after 2 years of actually finally
Yeah,
getting it all sorted. So I totally
well,
relate to that. But
I've torn both, but I remember like when I first started, I really liked Doug Williams wrestling. I think because of the judo background. And I said to Doug once, "Am I right to use the knee drop from the top ropes as like a move?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "You can use it if you want, but I'm really telling you now, don't do it because your knees, it's not good on your knees." I'll be okay. Now I've torn my ACL, and the other knees tore my MCL, and like my knees are completely gone. And I just wish I should have listened to that advice. Now I do it still, but it's very, very limited.
yeah,
Well, it used to be every match.
save it for the big moments. Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, for sure.
So you've come back home then. What's next? Is it wrestling now something you're like, I've had enough of this, or is it actually I'm back now, I'm going to refocus and
Uh, so I
try and
had
get something back?
yeah. So before I moved to Florida, the girl I was with at the time, she fell pregnant about, I don't know, a few months before I was meant to leave to go to Tampa. And I decided to go there anyway. And I came back for the birth of my first son. And then she didn't want to live in America. So I had a decision to make if I wanted to stay wrestling there or come back to England. And whether right or wrong, this obviously people might look at this as a bad thing, but I stayed with the WWE because it's what I'd worked all my life to do. And I think then when I was injured, I couldn't go back and see my kid, and that's really what messed me up. I think that the fact that they wouldn't let me go home because I had to be there rehabbing with them. So when I came back to England, I was kind of like I just wanted to see him and try and reconnect because I'd missed 3 years of his life. So I was, see if I could sort of reconnect with him in a way. So I didn't have any ambitions to go anywhere else or go back. I mean, I was offered to go back. Shane Douglas offered me something to do something in Vegas at the time that he was going to do, and it was like ever offers to go back to America, but I just didn't. I didn't want to leave England. But I thought, yeah, I'll keep wrestling because at the time when you get released from something like that, you can kind of ask for a bit of a premium in terms of money. So I can make some money doing this for a while in England. And that's when Brian Dixon called me almost as soon as I came back to England. And he said, "Do you want to come and work for Allstar and come and do the Butlins camps and do the town shows?" And like I said, I've always, as a kid, I wanted to wrestle there. That's the place I wanted to get to. So I just said, yeah, just let's do it, Brian. And we negotiated a price. And then I kind of just went full time with him, really. And then I just would wrestle for Allstar, which was, a lot of shows. So I was very active and I was sort of just doing that, really. And yeah, that's where I learned to wrestle. I'd credit that run with Allstar is really what taught me how to wrestle. Being around those guys, they really taught me. Someone like a James. If you wrestle James Mason 50 times and you're not good at wrestling, then you need to think about doing something else because James is the best British wrestler, definitely of the last 20 or 30 years. He's in a league of his own. So just to be around him or share a ring with him or just wrestle him, it rubs off on you and you start to learn.
Yeah, Flatliner calls him the lost scroll of him, like the lost scroll. He's just got all that information still from the generation before and all that. And
Yeah,
I
for
think,
sure.
yeah, it's right. He is. I've had him on the show as well, and he just,
Yeah, I've listened to it.
I think he's just one of those guys that's just, even just talking to him for 5 minutes, you can just pick up so much.
He's a different league. He's a
Yeah,
different league. He just he's unbelievable. He's the kind of guy you just watch and you'll just be wrestling someone and you think, I'm never going to be that good. The way he can connect with an audience and the way that he can just literally wrestle anybody and get a match out of them. I used to do it. Well, not at the moment, not currently, but I used to do a lot of shows for James. Like I'd always be doing James's stuff, and he used to, I shouldn't say, for a little bit of a period of time, he would book me against wrestlers that he'd wrestled the week before and couldn't get a match out of, and he'd book me against them as a bit of a rib, I think, so they could all have a bit of a giggle behind the curtain. Sometimes it wouldn't work. Sometimes I'd manage to get a match out of these guys. It used to be good because I'd get the pat on the back from James and he'd go, okay, fair play. I couldn't get a match out of him and you did. It used to be quite good.
That's good. That's a good little test, though. I think that's good. So you're over now, and then so where does you're back over the UK now. You're established with Allstar. Where does the vision come through of starting, with Allstar South, starting your own thing up? Well, not your own thing, but your own sort of offshoot of that, if you will. Where does
Yeah,
that
sure.
sort of idea? Why does that idea come
Uh,
from?
because so for All Star and some independents, I guess, around Europe, and then 2019, my first tour of Japan, of all Japan, to do the Champions Carnival, and then 2019, I just kind of went out to Japan all the time. So I wasn't in England particularly that much. I was pretty much always out there touring, out with all Japan, and then my wife sort of said, "This is great, because they're paying okay, but." We were living in Bristol at the time. She said, my family are in Andover and Salisbury, and if we're going to keep doing this, I want to be around my friends and my family, which is completely understandable.
Yeah.
So we moved to Salisbury in 2020, and then that year I was meant to go to Champions Carnival, but that's the year that COVID happened. And they were actually, I remember the COVID just starting to happen, and they were saying to me, "Get to Heathrow now. We can get you on a plane this evening. Get to Heathrow now." And I'm thinking, I don't think that's a good idea. And I remember just sort of making up an excuse of why I couldn't get to Heathrow.
Yeah.
One of my friends from Malta, he did get on the plane to Japan. He ended up being stuck there for like 6 months in the dojo. So I made a good decision there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that we moved here, and then I sort of again it's a new area, and I sort of want to learn what wrestlers I'm around at the time, and I would go down. I did some coaching for Rev Pro, and I coached for Quality Wrestling. I coached for another company in Bournemouth. And as I was coaching, I was sort of meeting, not everyone there was great, but some of them were some really good wrestlers there. And I said, guys, do you want to just, there's a gym in Salisbury and they got some mats. I'm not really interested in doing big moves. I just want to get on the mats and have a roll around and do some cardio and do some conditioning. Do you want to come up and I'll hire the mats and we'll get together and do some training? And that's where I met the sort of Bullets and Lucian Phillips and these kind of guys who are my guys that first started with me, and we would just get there, and it's a little gym attic basically on mats, and you can't open the windows because they're all like sealed shut. And in the summer you'd see like a mist on the mats, and like these gorillas are in there training, and that was really good. And we were just proper hard conditioning, seriously hard conditioning, and then I would just show them a few bits of sort of technical wrestling or reversals or some holds and stuff. And that's where that started. And then we had our son, my second son, who's now 4. And then when he was born, because of my first kid, where I'd been in America the whole time, I just said, now that Ted's born, I don't want to keep traveling and doing so many shows. I want to be around and I want to watch him grow up. So I'm going to make this school a bit bigger. I'm going to get a unit, and I'm going to get a ring, and I'm going to see if I can make the training school work. Because if I can make it work, I should be able to reduce the amount of shows I do and make an income from a training school, which is why I opened to All Star stuff. And the All Star name, before Brian died, I just asked him. This is where Brian was. He wasn't ill, but you knew that it was coming to the end. And I sort of said, Brian, it'd be a really honour for me to be able to call my school All Star South, because Dino had the school in Liverpool at the time.
Yeah.
If that's okay with you, I just want to keep the All Star name going, because we didn't know what was going to happen at the time.
Yeah.
When Brian passed away, we didn't know that sort of Spitzy and Joe were going to take it on. And I just thought if anything was ever happen, at least the name is still there.
Yeah.
And I feel like, you can look back at British wrestling and All Star is the biggest company the European wrestling's ever seen. It's one of the biggest companies in the world. When I was in America, when I was in America, all they knew was Brian Dixon. If I said Brian Dixon to the American wrestlers or in Japan, oh yes, we know Brian Dixon, we know All Star Wrestling. It's just like a worldwide thing that everybody knows that company, and they all know Brian, and they've all got some story about Brian. So to have that name linked to my school, is like vital. And I've got all the old posters in there, and I try and really. I've got a big picture of Brian on the wall, and just teach my students about the heritage of All-Star Wrestling.
No, definitely. Well, as I say, I've been down. I've seen it. So it's impressive stuff. And again, I think it's something that's vital that needs to be passed on because there is such a rich heritage from just. I mean, it was interesting. I noticed when on the seminar recently where you had Jushin Liger there, I could see his eyes scanning the old posters on the wall, and I think he was dreading there might be a picture of Flying Fuji Armada on the wall.
Yeah, for sure.
I
But
could,
then I
I
think
could see
like
his eyes darting across. I was like, don't show me
yeah,
about the
for
mask.
sure.
And
But like I
but
mean,
again,
yeah, and I'd met Liger a couple of times before, but I think the fact that I've got him from the airport, and when I can say to him that it's All-Star Wrestling South, there's like a level of credibility that even someone like a Liger
100%,
would go.
yeah.
He'd just be like, okay, this is a good school, and he sees a picture of who he says is his mentor, Mark Rocco, on the wall.
Mm,
Okay, he's got proper professionals that he's teaching these guys about. He's not,
yeah.
this is a proper school.
And
I think
again,
he kind of liked that side of it.
and he was there at that key moment, the Royal Albert Hall, which again for a Brian Dixon key moment that people might not. We talked about it on that day actually. When women were allowed to wrestle in the Royal Albert Hall,
For
he
sure.
he
Yeah,
was
yeah,
on that show. He's in that long picture with Mitzi and Klondike Kate, and I think it's John
yeah, yeah,
Quinn and him. I'm sure there's somebody else. No, it might be Kendo or something like that. There's somebody there. I've forgotten who it is off the top of my head now. But
yeah, yeah.
he was there at a key moment in British history as well. And again from talking to him and that he remembers that he knows what that is, and the fact that you're there and you've got all that carrying on and stuff. I think that's something that people should
Yeah.
know
Well,
about and learn about. Mm.
any good European wrestlers pass through All Star Wrestling, and maybe and some of the best wrestlers ever have gone through All Star Wrestling. It's such a history to the company. It's such a vital sort of company to wrestling.
No, definitely. So what are your visions looking to the future? Because you've got All Star South is established now. There's seems to be quite a good talent pipeline you've got there. Now I see your guys appearing on shows all around on
Mm-hmm.
different bill, and and they all seem to be well respected with their craft and what they're doing. What's your visions to the future? Is it going to build bigger? Are you going to do more shows? Is it maybe
Mm-hmm.
TV or whatever it is nowadays, internet or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you're looking for? Or is it more just the training side of it?
I don't think more shows. I don't mind promoting shows, but I really my vision was open a wrestling school, and I'm always going to put the school first. I wanted to teach guys wrestling and how to get them started the right way. So that's my main goal. And the shows are good, and we've got a bigger venue for our next show in February. Because we literally the venue we're at, we just sell out weeks before, and we don't put any. There's no posters in town. There's no paid advertising, and it's the same people. They come back every time, and it's just too small. It's just so I'm almost getting lazy. It just sells out straight away.
Yeah.
So I need a bigger place. We've gone to like a place a fair bit bigger. See if we can start selling that out. The school, I would like to next year try and move to a bigger unit because the school's so busy now. Some of the classes, it's just too many. I get some 20, 25 people in a class. It's quite hard to coach that many people. So I'd like somewhere a little bit closer because that is slightly outside of Salisbury at the moment. I'd like to get it into Salisbury, so I could run back and forth and just get somewhere a little bit bigger and maybe a slightly more professional looking. I like the barn, but some people might want something a bit more comfortable. So I'm trying to get a slightly better industrial unit. My and my
I know what
argument
you
to the
mean. I know what
to,
you mean.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean my argument to the guys in that barn is that like in the winter it's so cold because it's got fresh air vents everywhere. And I say to them like I don't know, I could be wrong, but like if you can train in uncomfortable environments, that's what makes you really good. Like if you train in a lovely air conditioned unit, then you're only going to be good if you wrestle in a lovely air conditioned unit. I want to train in an environment that's harder than the matches I wrestle in. Because if I can do that, I'm going to be better in the matches. Do you know what I mean? And
No, no,
the place is
100%.
and it's an old barn, but when you walk in, you can tell that they sweated on those mats. Like that's a proper, it's got that sort of old proper gym feel about it, which I quite like. That's
Definitely.
why I like to train in.
It's got that Rocky Four vibe.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
it's a proper old school. You're going to earn
Yeah,
it
yeah.
here. It's not a nice
But
state
that's
of
what
the
you
art for
want,
it.
you know.
But yeah, 100%.
But then that's what I want. Some people maybe not, and I've got to make money, so I've got to try and cater for
That's true. Yeah.
other people. In wrestling's difficult. I've got other coaches apart from myself, and I have to always have little chats with them, try and explain that this is a business and that ultimately it's got to make a profit. Otherwise, I'm not going to bother doing it. And so
Yeah.
you want to be, because I've got some students and they've got so much talent, and you want to be quite critical with them and almost a little bit harsh and really drill into them how things should be done. But you've also got to be like, I don't want to upset people, because if I upset them and they leave, then that's money lost. So it's trying to find that balance between understanding which people you think maybe have got something and you can be a bit tougher with, and which people you just need to nurture and take your time.
Yeah.
Which is why it's hard, which is kind of a skill of being a coach, I think, is being able to understand what different people respond best to. And some people, like a Lewis Basham, I like called Lewis Basham, and he's
I'm
unbelievable.
aware
You
of,
know,
yeah.
for me,
Well,
that's the next big star to come out of the school. And Lewis he's a man, you know, like, and you can tell Lewis direct and straight, and that's what he wants to hear. He doesn't want to hear any kind of faff. Like, he won't tolerate
yeah.
that. He just wants to know exactly what's wrong and exactly how he needs to fix it, and he'll go and do it. That's his mentality. Whereas some people aren't the same. Some people you need a bit more sensitive, and you need to learn how to approach things from a slightly different angle to get the same end result. But
Yeah. Well, that's the gift of the teacher. I'm a school teacher myself, so that's the skill of the teacher. You're adapting it to your students and
yeah, for sure.
getting out of them what they need. Now that's brilliant to hear. So what would you say then? You know, the British scene from when you've gone in it and you've sort of grown up through it to what it is now and what you're giving out. What's changed? What's the same? If someone's coming to you now going, "Oh, I want to be a wrestler. I'm a bit of a wrestler. I'm going to come to your school. Help me out." What's needed? What's the attitude that they need? What's the missing piece of the puzzle now to give them that extra?
The ability to wrestle without having to plan everything backstage is one of the main things that's missing, and I think that's something that I teach my guys how to do, especially in an advanced level wrestlers. All the time, I'll make them go in the ring. I won't tell them that like, you come in here, do 5 minutes, and then whilst they're wrestling, I'll just say, the top rope's just broken. You can't use the ropes anymore. Oh, the boards have all started to pop. No more bumps, and they've suddenly got to try and like adapt. They're trying to call on the fly, and the stuff they're thinking in their head now they've got to change that as well. And it's like that's what great wrestlers do. And I'm not knocking planning everything. And if I'm going to a show and the guy wants to plan everything, then I will, because I don't want to make him feel uncomfortable. But if I know in my head that if everything goes wrong, I can cover all that stuff by just calling stuff on the fly, I feel like I'm invincible. And when you feel like you've got that body armor on, that's when you're confident. And when you're confident, you wrestle at your best. So it's a skill that I don't know if schools teach enough, and it's something that you really need to do in a training school. And like I say to my guys all the time, this is a training school, so this is where you need to do things wrong, because this is no one's filming this, no one's gonna have a laugh at you or write some silly review online. You're coming in here to get things wrong, so that they don't happen on live shows. Do you know what I mean? So if the guys are
100%.
uncomfortable, and I've got some like I don't know, I name a name because he's a guy called Tommy Tanner, and he comes down and trains with me. And Reese is unreal. Like I think he's. If you ask me now who's the
Yeah.
next guy who's going to get signed, it's him and Lewis. One of those two. Like Reese is so good. But Reese started coming out to train with me, and I do this drill where they're a villain or something, and the guy comes in, they put a bit of heat on, and they've got to call a hope spot, shut them down, throw them out. Next guy comes in, and you do like 5 guys in a row. So you just got to come up with 5 hope spots on the fly, and he couldn't come up with one. And I was like, Jesus Christ, you've never been taught how to do this? No. Okay. So I gave him a quick hope spot. Just do that. Throws him out. Next one comes in. Still nothing. Can't think of anything. I'm thinking that this is like, you know what I mean? If you learn this, I promise you, this is going to make you so much better. Because not that you're going to necessarily do it when you go to like a progress. You're probably still going to want to plan stuff. But if you have that ability, that if it goes wrong, you can cover anything. You feel confident and you wrestle really, really well. And that, again, it's not a knock on him because, like I say,
Yeah.
he's absolutely superb. I think the guy's going to be. If he's not signed next year, I'd be so surprised. I can't understand why you wouldn't give that guy a big contract.
Yeah.
But it was a weakness in his game, and it's something that we're working on and we'll fix. So I think maybe another thing that guys lack. Um, that we could be here all night. I think sometimes they don't. Guys who wrestle now in England, especially from what I see, they don't allow down moments for the audience to react to what they've seen. They try and do a lot of stuff and cram. In NXT, they would say you're trying to put 10 pounds of shit in a 5 pound bag. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you got a 10-minute match and you try and do a 20-minute match in 10 minutes. Just do a 7-minute match in that 10-minute space and you've got some time to kill. They try and do too much in their matches and they don't allow any downtime for that crowd to understand what they've seen. If you do something good in a wrestling match, the audience needs 5 or 10 seconds to register what they've seen and understand it and react to it. But if you don't ever slow down or give them a rest, the crowd can never really give you any kind of appreciation for what you're doing because it's just a big blur.
Yeah, and I doubt time to break it. Yeah, no, 100%. But do you think then that is something, because I'm choosing my words carefully here. Do you think that's something that is damaging now, or is it just something that is it a style
No,
now that people have got to now? Because, there's
no,
certain
I think,
promotions now where they do everything in about the
uh,
first 5 minutes.
yeah. So, again, we're going to get ourselves in trouble
I
with
know,
this.
so, I
So, I
know.
mean, so for me, like, and I had this chat with the boys on last Thursday with the advanced team, and I said, when Brian, and still now at Allstar, we used to be like a team where everyone knew what match they were, and everyone just did what they
Yeah,
were asked to
the
do in that
spot to
stage
do.
of the show, and we would work as a team to put on a great show. It wasn't individuals working for matches. If I was in the opening match, I'm not going to go off the top rope, and I'm not going to fight on the outside. Do you know what I mean? And it would build throughout the show, and you'd put on great shows. And I don't think that's there anymore. I don't think the guys in the changing rooms get together now and understand the concept of it's not about your match, it's about the show.
So,
Because if the show's really good, those people are going to buy tickets to the next show and they're going to bring their mates with them, and your crowd's going to double, and you're going to get bigger and bigger crowds. They're so focused on just their match being good. And someone said to me once, and I think they're correct, in that people don't watch full wrestling shows anymore. They just watch the matches that they want to watch. So they go online to an on demand service and they go, I want to watch that match. And they'll skip and they'll just watch that match. So the idea of whole whole shows being good, maybe it's being lost. That's probably only those sort of internet based wrestling companies where that happens.
yeah.
Most ever shows, or 90% of shows in England, are just family shows in front of a live audience, where the end reaction at the end of the night is what really matters.
No, definitely, because it is that thing, and it's the live audience wrestling versus the TV wrestling kind of thing. And when you got an
Yeah, for
audience
sure.
there, they're there to sort of be played with and milked and to get those reactions. And
Yeah,
dare I say it, sometimes, yeah,
I think promoters don't always think about whole shows either. They just put random matches on, and I'm not trying to blow smoke at my ass, but like we did a show Saturday, and opening match was a tag team match. The second match was literally a 5 second quick roll up. The third match was a blew a technical, more of a wrestling based style, sort of smaller guys. Then we had Chris's comedy tag, if you don't mind me saying that, but
yeah.
a very fun
Oh,
tag. Then we had Bobby Vegas and Lucian Phillips, which was like a punch up brawl, and then a rumble. But none of those matches are the same. So no one's stepping on anyone's toes. You know what you're doing. There's no other match like you on the shows. You kind of got free reign to do what you want. And at the end of the show, everyone gets over. Like the audience can understand everybody's character. Whereas if every match is the same, 15 minutes, blue eye villain, you know what I mean? It's kind of like it's good, but there's only so much stuff you can do, and you're always trying to like compete with each other because you don't have a set goal for that match, and no one really gets over apart from maybe a main guy. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And I always think of like wrestling shows should be like a circus, and if I go to the circus, I don't want to just see the trapeze artist. I want to see a clown, and I want to see a guy getting shot out of a cannon, and I want to see.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I want to see all these different things, and that's what makes the show really good. And wrestling shows should be the same.
No, 100%. I totally agree with that. What's your vision then with British wrestling moving forwards now? Going, 2026 is around the corner. What does British wrestling need to be doing now to, raise its profile, to improve it? What's now? I mean, the elusive TV thing hangs over all the time. People going, "Oh, if we just get that TV deal, it'll be back again," or whatever, that sort of thing.
Yeah, maybe.
What do you think is sort of what's next for British wrestling?
Wouldn't have a clue. I think you can never compete with WWE. You can never compete with that level of production. So it
Yeah.
doesn't matter what TV deal you get, you're never gonna compete with those guys. So I don't know. I love European style wrestling. I love the British style, and a lot of guys. Again, that's another thing that I coach. I get so many guys come to my school, and I say, "What do you want to do with wrestling?" And they go, "I want to go to Japan." So, okay, what style do you do? Oh, I do strong style. I said, "Well, they're not going to pay you a flight and visa to do the same thing that the guy down the road does.
Yeah.
So, do you know what you need? Do you want to go to Japan? You need to learn how to wrestle European style wrestling." Oh, like, I can't really do that. I said, well, unless you learn that, they're not paying your flight. Because when I used to go out there, they just get me to do exhibition matches and just do reversals and routines.
Yeah.
So I think that style is something that we could offer that's different to the Americans and might be good. I think another thing again might upset people, but whatever. I'm almost retired. I think a lot of British wrestlers, and it's another thing that I say at my school, and I say to them, I know other schools probably don't say this to you, and it might be just because they want to keep you as students, but I say to them, this is a cosmetic business. You have to have a physique. If you haven't got a gym membership and you don't go to the gym, you don't, or you don't have a look about you that is different to the audience, you're not going to make this a
Yeah,
goer. It's never going to work for
100%.
you. There's so many guys in England who are not in shape. They're very average looking people. They're wrestling in t-shirts. You think, like, guys, I understand it. When I was a kid, me and Chris Andrews, when we watched wrestling on Sky, you just saw like The Rock and Steve Austin, and they were big guys. And before we even thought about wrestling on the hay bales or starting that school in Exeter, we bought some dumbbells and a bench press, and we bought some gym equipment off Facebook or whatever it was at the time, or eBay. And
Yeah.
we used to go in his barn and train. Do you know what I mean? And I was 15 lifting weights. It was like, if I want to be a wrestler, I have to go to the gym. I can't. It won't work otherwise. And
No,
again,
definitely.
at my school, I push it on the guys like, you have to go to the gym. And also, it's not about being a bodybuilder or looking muscly. It's about, I want to know that you are strong enough to pick me up above your head and hold me. I want to know that your cardiovascular is good enough to last an hour match if I need you to. Do you know what I mean? And so many guys, I
Yeah.
think, just wrestle at the weekend and that's it. And eat McDonald's throughout the week. And it's like, well, don't expect to be a big star.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I always called it like the enter in the room test. If you can walk into a room and people turn around for whatever reason, they might be laughing at you, they might be scared to death of you. There's a reason as you walk in that room, you get people's attention. You're there. If you just walk in and no one flinches or anything,
Yeah, for sure. But
yeah,
I tell my
definitely,
guys,
yeah.
I call it the Weatherspoons test. Like if I go down to Weatherspoons
Oh,
and the guy
yeah,
asks me, he says, "What do you do for a living?" and I say, "I'm a wrestler." I want him to go, "Yeah, I can see that." Not, no, really. You know what I mean?
yeah,
A lot of guys, they'd go, "No, you don't." You want them to go, "Yeah, yeah, I can get that." You know, and it haven't got to be a bodybuilder. You just got to look different. You know what I mean? And like we had Fatline up at the school a month ago or a couple of months ago. He was saying the same thing. Like you just got to look different. And Chris has got the handlebar moustache and the
no,
bandana, and I mean he just doesn't. Chris, you can tell that Chris does something different. He
yeah,
doesn't work in an office. He's not a solicitor. Like he's clearly an entertainer of some kind. You
yeah,
just got to have that presence about you. Do you know what I mean? And like again with James, like James has never got a good body, but James has got a way of connecting with an audience, and he just looks like a man. He's just got like a more manly look about him. I just feel like you just have to have something. You haven't got to be a bodybuilder, but at least be big, or at least have a physical presence about you.
yeah. No, 100% on that. Well, if anyone is listening to this and they're thinking, okay, I'm a wrestler now and I want to up my game, or I'm thinking about trying wrestling or whatever, this guy sounds like he knows what he's talking about. What's the best way for people to get hold of you?
So we're at ASW South on Instagram. Drop me a message on that, or the website is allstarsouth.com, and you can drop us an email. on the website, and then come along and do some training. But like I said, it's a sweatbox old barn, and the advanced class do very hard conditioning. But I think there's a myth going around British wrestling that I just drill people. That's not true at all. The beginners, you get looked after if you come in at the beginner level. It's just when you get to that advanced class that it can be really intense training. But then if you get to the advanced class, I feel like you're out working shows around the country, and I put my name on you, so my reputation is on you. And I say to them, guys, you're students. If you go to a show and you make a mistake during the match, it's all good. You're a student. If you go to a show and 5 minutes in, you're blowing out your ass and you can't wrestle, I'm going to be pissed off. Conditioning is one thing you can control. And probably the same with any kind of grappling or any kind of fighting or combat sports. You can't always control the result, but you can always control the conditioning and the preparation. And if you're not conditioned when you go in to do a match, then you're in trouble. You know what I mean? So
100%. There's an old freestyle wrestler who became a pro wrestler in America, Bob Roop. He wrestled in the UK in the 70s, and he always used to say an hour in the gym is 1 minute in the ring. And that was his cardio thing and all that. And so no, totally get that, because that's the one bit. That gas tank is what you're going to need, especially if it's your first few times and you're in front of people and all that, and you just
No, drop me an email. And we've got a really good group and had quite a lot of new starters recently. So if you're thinking about being a pro wrestler, we've had a new batch come in recently, so you won't be the only one there who's new to the job. It's really good. It's very busy now. We've got a big busy school. They're a pretty decent group of people. Just drop us an email and come along.
Great. Well, thank you very much for joining us this evening, Joel. I know it's a busy time of year, and I appreciate you taking the time to have a chat with us this evening.
No worries, Brett. Thanks, mate.
No.
Thank you, Joel, for taking the time to join us this week. If you check out the show notes on the grapplerofyoureye.com, you'll be able to see all the links to Allstar South and Joel himself and read a little bit more about him. Now, moving on. Now, looking forward to next week. We'll be back with another guest. In the meantime, you can subscribe to our show and enable our notifications on YouTube. Please do give us a like, a follow, interact in our little community there. It all really does help out. You can also listen to our shows on Apple Podcasts, Audible, Spotify, and all the usual podcast apps that are out there. Give us a like and a review, and it really does help push us up as we spread the gospel of grappling across the world. Again, new episodes drop every Thursday at 7 a.m. UK time, and you can follow us on our social medias on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all the other ones. And as always, our mothership is the grapplerofyoureye.com, which has got everything we do on there. You can listen to past episodes, see what we're up to, contact us, etc. But as I say, our time now comes to an end this week. We'll be back next week with another guest, so stay safe and stay on the mats.